Is the global entertainment industry really ready to face the harsh reality that has been locked tightly behind the sparkling lights of Seoul? When a figure of the GoldenMaknae, adored by millions of people, is suddenly dragged into an unimaginable dark vortex, can a desperate decision from a close friend stop the total destruction that is already in sight? Before we delve deeper into the chronology that shakes the universe, make sure you hit the like button. Give your opinion in the comments about what really happens behind the scenes. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a second of the progress of this big investigation. Have you ever imagined a world where time seems to stop spinning just because of one blurry photo upload that appears at 3 in the morning? Is it possible that a reputation built with sweat, tears, and dedication over more than a decade could collapse in just minutes from a shadow caught on camera in a dark corner of Gangnam District? That night, Seoul was supposed to be fast asleep under the blanket of a biting winter. But for South Korea's entertainment industry and millions of eyes across the globe, it was the start of a storm they'll never forget. It all started with a moment of silence before the explosion of digital information hit every mobile phone screen, bringing absurd news that makes anyone's heart stop beating for a moment. JeonJungkook, who has always been considered the gold standard of idol perfection, is now at the center of an unprecedented storm of scandal in K-pop history. This news doesn't come through official agency releases or big media statements that usually control the narrative, but rather through a data leak that feels very planned and systematic. An anonymous account on the newly created social media platform Minutes earlier uploaded a series of documents and video snippets that were very vague, but had strong enough context to make the public draw dire conclusions. Why is Jungkook there? The question instantly resonated, bouncing from account to account, creating a wave of panic that could barely be felt physically. In a matter of seconds, the hashtag involving his name topped the world trend. Not as a form of support as usual, but rather as an expression of deep distrust and fear. The public is wondering, is this the end of everything? Does the ever-smiling figure in front of the camera hold a secret so dark that it could destroy the entire foundation of the industry that has raised him? The situation became even more tense as HYBE's headquarters in Yongsan remained pitch black with not a single statement coming out until dawn. The silence of this agency is not an ordinary silence. It is the kind of silence that precisely justifies the greatest fears of the fans. At the moment when the international media began to try to contact the representatives of the management, all they found was an impregnable stone wall. However, amid the chaos of such confusing information, there is one detail that goes unnoticed by many, a small clue that will later become the key to this whole change in the storyline. As everyone focuses on Jungkook's reported disappearance from his residence, a black car with very dark glass is seen leaving a luxury apartment in the HannamHill neighborhood, and the person in the car is not the person the media is looking for, but ParkJimin. What does Jimin know that the world does not know? Why did he choose to make a move at a time when the agency instructed everyone to remain silent and not give any reaction? Jimin's decision to step out in the middle of this storm is not just a spontaneous act of a friend, but a huge gamble that will permanently turn the clock on this scandal. Jimin had always been known as a soulful figure, someone who looked after his colleagues with genuine warmth, but this time, there was something different in his eyes. There was a cold firmness, a determination that seemed to say that he was ready to sacrifice anything, including his own career, for the sake of a truth known only to them both. Speculation is mounting that not only does Jimin know, but he is the only person who holds the key to proving whether Jungkook is truly guilty or whether this is a high-profile conspiracy designed to take down the entertainment giant as the streets of Seoul begin to fill with activity in the morning. The tension is increasingly evident in every corner of the subway station and the large screens at the crossroads. People stop walking just to stare at the headlines that are constantly updated every minute. The valuation of the company's shares began to show a drastic downward trend, creating panic among global investors who had been pinning hopes on the stability of BTS's big name. However, behind the numbers and huge financial losses lies a much more painful human drama. How does a Jungkook feel right now? Is he hiding behind a locked door, brooding over a mistake he may have made, or is he trapped in a situation beyond his control? Surprise after surprise kept popping up as one by one people claiming to be witnesses began speaking out on social media. But their statements were often contradictory, adding to an increasingly thick and difficult to unravel layer of mystery. Hidden clues began to spread across the internet. Some observant fans noticed a discrepancy in the date and time indicated in the leaked document. They found that at the time mentioned in the scandal, Jungkook should have been at a different location for an unpublished private activity. However, the evidence seems to be drowned out by the negative narrative that continues to be rolled out by those who want its downfall. This is where the emotional role begins to take over. The sense of betrayal felt by some of the public clashes with the blind loyalty of those who refuse to believe in the absence of concrete evidence. This division creates a very toxic atmosphere in cyberspace, where every argument turns into a personal attack and every speculation is perceived as an indisputable fact. In the midst of the chaos, Jimin remained motionless in the shadows. He did not go to the agency's headquarters, but to a secret location that has never been known to the public or the media. This location is not a luxury place, but an old building on the outskirts of the city that has a long history for them before they became world stars. Why did Jimin choose that place? Are there secrets of the past coming back to haunt them now? Jimin's decision to go, there was a very risky move. Because if he was caught by the cameras of the paparazzi who constantly followed him, it could only aggravate the situation and drag his name into the mud of the same scandal. Jimin didn't seem to care. For him, there is something far more precious than reputation or wealth, namely the promise they once made under the Seoul sky years ago to always protect each other. No matter what as the critical hours of the first day of the scandal erupted, pressure on the management intensified. They were forced to give a definite answer, but every word they uttered only added to the doubts of the public. The public felt that there was something to hide, a truth too great to reveal directly. Was Jungkook really involved in the alleged illicit transactions? Or is the video circulating just the result of sophisticated technological engineering that aims to destroy its public image? The real shock came when a short message from Jimin's personal cell phone was leaked to the public, the content of which consisted of only a few words. "I know where you are. Don't do anything until I come." This message seems to be gasoline that doused the fire that was already raging violently. Who sent the message? Is it for Jungkook? And what does Jimin plan to do once he's there? Rhetorical questions begin to arise in the minds of every person. If Jungkook is indeed innocent, why didn't he immediately show up and defend himself? Why did he choose to disappear at a time when the world needed him most? And for Jimin, is this act of heroic loyalty, or is it a fatal mistake that will drag him into the same pit of destruction? The tension reached its peak when the media started getting reports that the Seoul police had received a request to conduct an official investigation into the leaked documents. This is no longer just social media gossip. It has become a serious legal issue that could end the career of anyone involved in it. The world of entertainment seems to be holding its breath. Never before has a scandal involved a name of this magnitude with evidence so provocative as well as confusing. Every ticking of the clock feels like a countdown to a big bang that will change the map of the global music industry forever. Crisis communications experts suggest that the agency take immediate, decisive action. But there seems to be another force behind the scenes at play, a force far greater than just artist management. Behind closed doors, tense negotiations are taking place. While out there, millions of fans can only wait in broken feelings, hoping that all this is just a nightmare that will end at sunrise tomorrow. However, that hope seemed very far away when late in the afternoon, a new photo appeared on the internet. The photo shows Jimin's car stopped in front of a building that looks very suspicious. And there, a man with a black hoodie covering his face is stepping out of the darkness. The man's posture is very familiar. The way he walks, the way he bows his head, all refer to one name, JeonJungkook. This secret meeting in the midst of the storm gave a deep surprise that no one expected. Instead of running away from trouble, Jungkook seems to be waiting for someone, and that person is Jimin. What will they talk about there? And what decision will Jimin make after he sees Jungkook's true condition? The decision will be a turning point that changes everything, a step that will not only determine the future of both of them, but will shake every heart that has ever loved them. The emotional tension reaches a boiling point when we realize that behind all these headlines, there are two young men who are fighting against a world that has suddenly turned hostile to them. It's no longer about music, it's no longer about records or awards. It is about surviving in the midst of a storm of slander and unimaginable pressure. Jimin, with all the composure he could muster, entered the building unaware that in the distance, a remote camera lens had captured his every move. The world is watching, and every step he takes now will go down in history as a saving or precisely a devastating one. Jimin's decision not to follow the agency's instructions and choose his own path was a very brave form of rebellion. He knows that his actions will have long-term consequences, but for Jimin, the truth can't be negotiated with a contract or a public image. Inside the old building, the air was cold and damp, contrasting with the luxurious life they usually lived. The atmosphere there was very quiet. There was only the sound of a racing heartbeat and the sound of footsteps echoing through the empty halls. As Jimin finally stood in front of the door where Jungkook was, he paused, took a deep breath, and asked himself inwardly, will after he opens this door, their lives remain the same? Or is it the moment in which they have to say goodbye to everything they have built? A real surprise awaits behind that door, something that no internet detective or media watcher has ever predicted. Something that would make anyone who doubted them feel ashamed, but at the same time, put a very heavy burden on anyone who heard it. Jimin turned the doorknob with a slightly trembling hand, and as the door opened, the dim light from inside the room revealed a scene that would turn the narrative of this news completely from a criminal scandal into a heart-rending human tragedy. Everything we think we know about this Jungkook scandal is just the tip of a much bigger and more dangerous iceberg, and Jimin has just decided to plunge into its depths without the slightest safety rope. Have you ever felt the moment when the whole world around you seemed to collapse, leaving a silence so deaf that you could hear your own irregular heartbeat? What would you do if the person you trusted the most in the world were found in the most fragile of circumstances, in a place far from all the luxuries that had been a golden prison for both of you? The door creaked softly, cutting through the eerie silence of the night on the outskirts of Seoul, and what Jimin saw in the dimly lit room was not the haughty figure of a world star or a young man partying, as alleged by malicious rumors on the internet. There, in the cold corner of the room, sat JeonJungkook with a deathly pale face, his normally bright, shining eyes now looking dim and filled with a deep fear never seen before by any public. Before we dive deeper into the great conspiracy that began to unfold in this narrow room, make sure you still provide support by share your theories in the comments about who the intellectual actors behind all this, and make sure you have subscribed so as not to miss the disclosure of physical evidence that we will present in the next chapters. This scandal is much bigger than just a personal matter. It is an attack on the integrity of a nation. The tension in the room was so thick that it felt like it could be cut with a knife. Jimin stepped in cautiously, as if afraid that the sound of his footsteps would destroy whatever was left of Jungkook's sanity. The room was lit only by a single flickering light bulb, creating long shadows that danced on the peeling walls. There are no luxuries here, no security staff, and no managers who usually manage their every move. There are only two friends who are now at the nadir of their lives. The big question that now hangs in the air is, what really happened that night in Gangnam? Why would Jungkook, who is known for being extremely cautious, be caught in a situation that is so damaging to his image? Jungkook looked at Jimin, but his eyes did not show instant recognition. It was the gaze of someone who had just gone through an overwhelming trauma. He was not holding a bottle of liquor or a banned substance, as depicted by the evidence photos circulating on social media. In his hand, he held a small storage device, a silver flash that looked ordinary but contained information that could bring down more than just an idol's career. Herein lies a profound shock that is beginning to unfold. Jungkook is not the culprit of this scandal, but rather the target